Okay, it is 6 o'clock. I will call this meeting of the Juneau Utility Commission to order. Roll has been taken. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Ross, second by Bart to approve the amended agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Minutes of the previous meetings.
So moved.
Motion by Dave, second by
I'll second.
Second by Ross to approve the minutes of the previous meetings. Any questions at all? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public appearances, comments, let the record show that no one's present. Monthly business. Approve the vouchers and the checks.
Yeah.
Motion by Bart,
Second.
second by Dave to approve the vouchers and checks. Any questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Prior month income statements. Anybody have any questions or concerns on any of those? If not, we will move on. Council acts affecting the utility. Resolution 19, 2024. Resolution authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $3 million general obligation promissory notes. Resolution 21, 2024. Approved compliance maintenance report. Resolution 22, 2024. Approved facsimile signature. Consumption and loss. Any questions? Okay. Moving on. Delinquent customers.
This current month outstanding is a little bit higher because the due date was on Friday. And those payments that we got between Friday and over the weekend didn't post until today, so this is old data because I ran this report on Friday morning. So we are still in pretty good standing with delinquents.
There was 11 disconnections, and they are all turned back on.
Okay. All right. Moving on to reports of officials. Utility accountant. Laura.
We got the new municipality magazine today, and this was something that was in there that I just thought I would bring up to you guys. Because we've been having discussions throughout the year for wages and how everything's kind of out of whack comparably with the other municipalities. So this survey that they did, there were 30 different municipalities in Wisconsin that returned questionnaires, and they, I just thought it was interesting that the first graph, the municipal finance concerns, are for the next budget is going to be increases in staff salaries and the health insurance and other benefits. And on the second graph, it was what are you prioritizing as far as your budgets go, and the staff salary benefit increases was at almost 70% that they're going to be focusing on for their budgets. So I just thought I'd show you guys that we're not the only one that's going to be paying attention to that. And also, because there's 30 other municipalities that are going to pay attention to it, I feel that if we don't work on bringing up the wages like everyone's been discussing, that we're going to fall further behind in competition. So just a little fact of we're not the only ones, and we should probably be watching that also. Other than that, the disconnects went smoothly. Everybody got turned back on. I think there was one that was a couple days, but otherwise everything went pretty well. And not much else has been going on in the office. It's pretty standard. That's all I have.
Anybody have any questions for Lori? Okay. Moving on, electric superintendent.
So the first thing I got on there is the discuss and possibly approve the AC conversion work for the post office. This is in conjunction with that Fair Street conversion work. The post office is the only three-phase customer on that stretch of circuit there. If we were to provide three-phase power to the post office, it would be an additional $22,365 worth of infrastructure. And been going over the years, I've been doing research on the post office. They initially did have a three-phase service there they had that little elevator in the back that they used to load trucks with. That's a non-existent piece of equipment for them anymore. And the only thing that is servicing right now is their rooftop AC unit, which was replaced 4 years ago. The owner didn't even know it was a three-phase, and he didn't even know he had two meters. So for us to convert the AC unit for them would save us $22,365 minus what is proposed so far is about $6,700 on the high end, and on the low end it's $4,000, $4,481. I just got these back today. I haven't reviewed them. So what I'd like to do is to make a motion to approve not to exceed that $6,700. And then obviously we'll go with the cheaper proposal. There is some electrical work that needs to be done there, roughly about $700 worth of electrical work that we'd be paying for. But in the end, it would be saving us, like I said, roughly $17,365. So yeah, it makes sense for us to do this conversion work for that customer. Yeah, we're paying for someone else's equipment, but It's to benefit the utility and our costs going forward, and it's gonna simplify that whole circuit that feeds that part of the area to the east there. So I know I've been in touch with Dan a little bit throughout this process, and because he's done work up there too, and just get information, but it just makes sense for us to do that.
Also save the customer money on the
Absolutely.
meter.
Yep, it's a win-win situation. It's saving us a lot of money, and it's gonna be saving the customer in the end. So.
It's a little weird to me, isn't the customer the US government?
So that customer, and actually they rent that facility from a person, they do not own that facility.
You can own the post office.
Not a fact air conditioner. I'm gonna see if we can, to help our cause too, I'm gonna see if we can sell that unit that's up there, because it's only 4 years old. So we might get some back too as well, unless there's a city, I don't think any of our city buildings have that, but we'll see. I might throw it on the marketplace or something to try to get some money back from that as well.
Wouldn't the heating contractor be interested in that?
I asked them that I didn't get a for sure answer, but they said they would look into it to see if they would have customers, and then maybe they'll just buy it from us direct.
It is the largest residential style air conditioning unit available. It's a 5-ton unit. And I had told the Strausses at the time, I says, if you ever update the heating system, and I says, make sure that the guy goes with the single phase air conditioner, because I says, you're paying a monthly fee for only 6 months of use, maybe, if that, to have a meter in place. And I says, we've got a dedicated circuit that goes around the back alley just to feed your air conditioner. So, if you get a single phase unit, it would save the utility some money and would save you some money. Well, then the Strausses sold it to a gentleman, Alan Hoffman. He lives over by, what's my name? Dalton, the Dalton area. He owns the Oakfield post office. I've done work for him up there too. And he's very easy to get along with and whatever. I could think his biggest concern was, well, if you change that, the air conditioning condenser, was it due to my initial warranty on my heating cooling system? Because after Strausses sold it, he did have to update that heating and cooling system and whatever. And he's had some issues with it since then, so I'm sure he'd welcome the chance to be able to save some money and get a brand new air conditioning unit on his 4-year-old furnace. So.
And I have been in touch with them throughout this whole process, and he's on board. And I told him we'd be talking about the finances as far as moving forward with it, and told him a couple different contractors that have been, or companies that have been dealing with, and he's up for it, because in the end, he's getting another warranty out of the rooftop unit as well.
So we're buying the new air conditioning unit and we get the old unit.
We're going to be,
That's
yes.
part of the deal?
Yeah. It's got that wild, like it's at 240 well into it.
They'll run off of 208 though.
Yeah.
You might have one just for it out at the wastewater treatment.
Everything I got's 480.
No, okay, then you're screwed.
Unless I got a new station that needs air
He
conditioning.
needed a home, yeah. I think all the well houses now should be converted.
This is kind of a white elephant. You're not going to find a whole lot of places, unless you find like a grocery store or something like that.
I think you should be able to find something. I can throw it on Craigslist.
How old is it?
4 years old, so it's not very old.
Mm.
But it's already had a leak on it, so.
So, what is your pleasure?
The number would be not to exceed 6,700, and like I said, it's gonna come in less than that. Should be 5,200 roughly, but I just want to make sure my apples to apples are squared away. I just got the last one. The meeting started.
Yeah.
So we gotta pull those extra wires out.
Yeah, so it'll be removal of, and to cut costs, we are assisting in the removal of the electrical service and part of this project is removing all the overhead line anyways, so we'd be up there removing that anyways, so. It's gonna get rid of a lot of conflicts that are up there. That's the primary that's going back there now is that old copper solid number 2 with the jacket that's coming off, and we hardly had any crimps to even fix that stuff anyways.
So where's the $6,700 coming from?
So this whole project up to this point has been a reallocation of my budget that was designated for the Leonard and Downey reconductoring. So that would fall under my capital project improvements. I had allocated $120,000 for that. So all this project has been reallocated towards that. So we're sitting really good as far as finances go.
Budget, that's all done.
So up until this point, we will be now coming to an end. We're going to be doing this in 2 phases. This was phase 1. This will be this year. Phase 2 will be budgeted for next year. So this whole project will not be completed until next year. They're broken into 2 parts. Otherwise, we won't be able to do it. We'll be. Me and Lori have been sitting down and just checking numbers throughout this project to make sure we're sitting good and sitting good so far. Trying to get this done as much as I can this year in that budget number, so that it doesn't set us up next year for a much larger budget, especially with ATC in the back of my mind, ATC project.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve a maximum of $6,700 for the AC conversion on the post office.
Motion by Dick, second by Dave. Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
And the second note here, discuss possibly approve additional verbiage on the apprentice lineman wage scale. Obviously, we had a long meeting with the wages, and I appreciate everybody's insight and making the changes that were made. One thing I would just like to add with that apprenticeship is to have added that step A pay, or step 9 pay will be received after successful completion of journeyman test. Because it's in our wage scale that every 6 months they obtain a raise. We don't want that person obtaining that raise until the official completion test score of their apprenticeship.
Will that be the completion of it then?
That would be the completion of it,
So
correct?
step 9 would be then journeyman rate?
Correct.
Okay.
He would be the journeyman. He doesn't get it until he passes that journeyman test.
Correct.
My way. I didn't pass, I won't get it.
That's what it should be.
That's what it should be.
So yeah, as long as we're talking about the wages, I think we made a mistake with the journeyman or the apprenticeship wages. We based it on the 50-47 of the linemen that we approved. And I don't believe that was correct. I think we were supposed to base that on something less than that. And actually, if you look at the wage thing that Mick supplied us last time, because according to this, we'll end up with we'll be the highest of any of the apprentice payers on this list. We based it on 50-47.
Yeah, that's the steps to be based off.
Yeah, but prior to that, we took the lineman technician wage and took 83.5% of that was the max for the apprentice. We didn't do that this time. We didn't take the 50/47 and multiply it by 83.5%.
Yeah, and I thought it was discussed that we weren't gonna do that, because then we're giving that person a 5-step increase no matter what. So like these wage scales for the people that are providing here. So these numbers for the apprenticeships,
Mhm.
I talked to almost all of these. I did talk to everybody except you. All these numbers are what apprentices are making at that particular time. It's not their set value as far as what they're maxing out at. So if they got,
It's the
Well, then
current
it's
wage.
meaningless, I don't understand.
yeah, this whole thing with the apprentice, I just did follow suit with the rest of the position. The apprentice, some people don't even put the apprentice's wages in this survey because it is such a difficult thing to show your mean, show your average, because it's not the max.
No, you got
scale,
different,
it's-
apprentices are at different year.
Right, right.
I mean, unless you put first year, second year, third year, I mean, you'd have to list every year of apprenticeship on there to get an accurate idea of what's going on.
Right.
See, and I assume that that's what that was. Year one or year two, these were all the same wages.
And I apologize if I didn't make that clear. I don't know if you guys recall
I
me saying that.
kinda, when we were talking about it, I kinda understood that that the apprenticeship, because the reason the numbers were quite different in some cases was because we were dealing with first year through fourth year apprentices, they were not all at the same level apprentice. The way that should be done, and if they're gonna do a survey, then it should be first year, second year, third year, and fourth year apprentices. To get accurate information, that's what it should be.
So then, after the 4 years that our apprentice serves, he passes his test, he will get the top lineman wage.
That's how it was when I got, I was based on that 83% or whatever our wage scale was. And the day I got my journeyman, I was brought to the utility commission, and they brought me right up to step 5 of the journeyman.
Correct, but prior to that, you were based on that 83.5%.
Right.
We are not doing that now.
I understand. When I received my step 9, after that completion, that month, I then came to the utility commission meeting, and they maxed me out at step 5 for journeyman.
Yes. But prior to that, it was always based on 83.5% of the max. Each-
Right, and all we're doing now is.
And now we aren't doing that.
Right.
We're basing it on 100% of the max.
We are. We're basing off the journeyman rate, and we're freezing their rate the step before they would be maxed at journeyman rate until we get that successful completion of their test. Because then they are a certified 100% journeyman. They can go out and do.
I understand the end part. I don't understand why we changed the middle part, or the steps leading up to it, because, I mean, like, the guy we have right now, it's costing us $6 an hour.
As far as what it used to be, right?
As far as what it would be, even based on the 50/47 at 83.5%.
I think the discussion was, why was it ever 83%? I guess is my point. Why was it never based off the journeyman?
Yeah, I don't remember that discussion, maybe we discussed it.
I think we kinda had that discussion, I don't know that it was as explicit as you just made it, but I think it was we were kinda working around that. As I recall, we were kinda talking around that. I don't think it ever came out as explicit as you just made it. And I don't know, the problem is, I think we're gonna I mean, if we don't do it off of 100%, off the full wage, I think we're gonna have issues keep getting help.
And
I think that was part of what we were addressing
Most all these
too.
utilities do base it off of that 100% of their journeyman rate. There's a Waupun, their third step that they just hired, they actually hired him, even though he's a third step, hired him at fourth step because they were behind. And he's at the max apprenticeship scale, which is based off that 100%, it's 90 whatever percent it is. And he will receive journeyman rate as soon as he passes his test. The typical fashion, you were in an apprenticeship.
I wasn't an apprenticeship, but I knew how it worked, and I'm pretty sure it was based off your journey, 100% of your journeyman rate. I don't remember, a long time ago, I don't remember how it was stepped. I just,
I think what
all
we
I
did
know
was
is that
right
when it
as
came
far
down,
as-
when they printed the piece of paper and said if you have a journeyman card within 9 months, I had a journeyman card. But I went and took the state test. As soon as I could get that, as soon as I had enough time accrued working, I went and took the test.
Right.
And I went from like, in a year's time, I think I went from like $11.50 to $18. Less than a year.
That's what should happen, doing an apprenticeship. You should go from $11.50 to $18. You shouldn't go from.
No, the apprentice was,
from
the thing about it was though, was the
$47 to
apprentices, if you were a fifth-year apprentice, or a fourth or fifth-year apprentice, you were making more than I was.
I can tell you our apprentice right now is step 2 isn't making more than step 2 apprentice at Columbus or Waupun. They're making what is set right now is the way it should, from what I've researched, is what they should be making.
Well, I feel like we made a mistake, but I think that I was already concerned, and I voted for it. I feel like I made a mistake. I rushed my vote, but we gave, guy got an $11 raise. That's crazy.
What is it more crazy that it was $11 behind?
I don't believe it was $11 behind. I believe it was more like $5 behind or $6 behind. Based on the way our scale wage was, and that's the way I feel. I just wanted to bring it up. I think we made a mistake.
I respect everybody's opinion, obviously. But yeah, I'm just looking at getting the verbiage in there that they don't receive that final step until after successful completion of the journeyman test. And this was,
Well, after they pass their journeyman's test, they're journeyman. They're no longer an apprentice.
correct.
He's worried that there's an implication there that they could get a raise before they get their journeyman's card. That's what
Correct.
Nick is
Your
worried
years
about.
of time go in. I didn't take my test yet.
Because, correct, and because this wage scale is every 6 months you get a wage increase. So you will not get that 100% until successful completion of your journeyman test.
Now, what does the state require as the lowest rate to pass, lowest percentage?
It's an accumulative score. It's your hands-on and your written test.
Written test for electrical, the written test, the minimum score was 70. 70 was passing on the written.
Yeah, I don't
state.
know. It's
For
most like, I don't
electrician.
recall what that was.
In Illinois, it's 75.
Iowa was 75.
Because it's a 3-day test.
Although in Illinois, it might
One's
depend
your
on where
safety
you're at.
manual test, the next day is your written test, and the following last day is your field test, so it's like a weighted score. Between all three
The problem
tests.
with Illinois is every
I mean, you
municipality
know,
is different.
doctors all graduate. You
Right.
understand
Yeah, every-
it's closer to
there's
the
no-
top than
there's
the
no
bottom.
statewide
And
licensing
you
going on.
want that similar here. You know, it's-
All right.
It
All right.
depends on- I mean, we could put in there 75% as the minimum accept.
No,
I
I-
mean,
When I was doing
just
Iowa,
suggesting, questioning,
Rockford all the way to the lake.
is that something we should do, or?
Across all them counties, top to all them counties.
Well, we received the pass bill from NWTC. They gave us the scale or the grade as well. Like I got a while ago, Nick's score, he got 100% on his first year test. But I think we just leave it to the state to give us the
We could do a
pass bill.
lawsuit.
Yeah.
So if they don't get 100, or if they don't pass their test, then they're still considered an apprentice.
Yep.
How long will that last?
I would have to look into see when retests, I know there's like a timeline, you have to wait so long before you can retest.
6 months.
I believe 6 months. I don't know the answer.
What should the commission's timeline be? Should we give the guy a year?
Something we've never looked at.
Has anybody, do you know of anybody failing there?
I don't know.
Do you know of
I don't
anybody
anticipate
failing?
anybody failing,
I've
but
never-
still.
You know anybody that failed?
I think if that, there was a case like that, we would hold a special meeting, I would think, right? To
Yeah,
discuss this.
I don't-
I've never heard Randy
I've-
Larson, he's our new safety instructor for MEW, and I think there's only been 2 instances out of his 38 years of instructing that.
I think
I
think we're gonna know the person ain't gonna fail long before they
Right.
ever get to that
I
point.
agree too.
I think Nick working with the person is gonna know before they ever get to before we ever get to,
If
So
you
that-
got, if you got an inkling that somebody's gonna bomb on the test, I mean, hopefully we know about it before then.
hopefully we're knowing about figuring it out in year 1 or year 2 that they're not gonna make it.
So,
Try to get them classes to get that information. If it's extra legal.
Well, I mean,
well, you want that for the verbiage on that? I would make a motion that we include that additional verbiage in there, that after the apprentice would have to complete the test for journeyman before he gets the wage. Successfully completes the journeyman test before he gets the wage.
I'll second that.
Step 9.
I'll second that.
Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
All right, the East Oak streetlight update, the foundations were set, the pipe was brought into it, we welded up the anchoring bolts and the cribbing there, and poured and finished. Runox did pour, they said they were taking care of everything, could finish everything, and good thing we checked, because it wasn't the best finishing on top, but we got to it in time to save them, so it turned out good. We'll be pulling in wire this week, and the holiday's gonna kind of screw us up, but hopefully we can set them this week. If not, it'll be first thing next week. That street will have lights again. Had a meeting with ATC for the rework that they're doing on the Y-134 line that goes from Beaver Dam to Horicon. We gave them our proposed plans. One's a underground conversion getting off of their poles completely, which they seem to really like because then they don't have to engineer their poles to also support our lines. And there's some cost savings on ATC, but also the savings they're receiving, also the cost goes up in general because it's underground. And we also gave them, it's kind of a split, there's an overhead transfer option where we're transferring off their poles on some areas and staying on in others. So we gave them two plans. The one plan was $508,000. The other plan is $397,000. So the next steps are ATC will be reviewing the plans. They'll be talking to their financial team as well, and we'll decide what one they're going to pay for, basically. Until I receive final order from ATC, I'm not ordering anything because we will be looking at getting full reimbursement for all this. So I know we talked a little bit when we were obtaining the loan, the resolution, that we didn't know what was going to happen. It's still up in the air. How long is it going to take for reimbursement? Is it after full completion? Is it kind of like our rates and rules where we can request half of it up front? I don't know those details yet, but at least the ball's going forward, and they really appreciated the early contact as they're having some struggles going on with the line energy, with the rest of the portions that are going on in this work that ATC's been doing. Storm update. Our system handled the other storms very well. We ended up providing mutual aid to Waterloo on June 21st from 5:30 p.m. to midnight. This is all billed work that will be going to Waterloo. So they got hit by a pretty nasty storm / tornado, and we were one of 3 other utilities that provided mutual aid that night. Other surrounding utilities had worked themselves that they were not able to provide mutual aid. So the Fair Street conversion work, the pipe and structures are placed for this phase 1 portion. H&H was Charter's contractor of choice. We went joint with them. We were really pleased with the work that H&H provided. We will be using them as far as estimates in the future. They had a nice sized crew. They got in quickly. They cleaned up nicely, grass seeded. They did an excellent job. We're not used to a 8-man crew coming in and knocking things out. So, and their prices were really fair as well. Weren't far off from our other contractors. So it's just something to keep in the back of our minds when going forward with bids. So yeah, first phase was done. I obtained another 2 easements for the second phase. With that first phase going across the East Oak, we obtained that easement from Tim Fletcher, the bike shop, went across the parking lot. All that work's done. Now the second phase is going to be going along Kathy Lamb's property. We obtained a 5-foot easement on her north side at no cost, and also a 5-by-7-foot easement to place a transformer on the neighbor to the north, Sally Steele, at no cost as well. And they were also very pleased with H&H's work that they did out in front of their house. We'll be placing some bollards by the city parking lot. If you guys go down the Acorn Alley, you'll notice that there's 2 structures by the it'd be the east edge of the city parking lot back there. Apparently at one point, there used to be some transformers back there at one point in time. Dan, I think you mentioned that.
Yep. Used to be some ground level ones there.
So there's actually two structures back in that location. We're gonna be cleaning that up nice. We'll be putting some decorative stone around, not decorative, just that wash stone, farm wash stone around there, so that, I know Owens mows that city property that's through there, so we wanna make sure that that's still easy to maintain for them back there. We got a request for a service relocation at 329 North Main Street. We will be doing next week. I submitted the pedestrian beacon crosswalk permit to the state for Highway 26 by Village Garden there. That's for the school, or the kid crossing, or anybody for that matter crossing. I got notification that they have been shipped, so we'll be looking at getting those worked into our schedule as well. Sunset update, we ran pipe to the three newest duplexes built closest to Western Avenue on the north end. We have not pulled wire in yet because we're waiting for one of them to be fully erected before we can, and we gotta wait for the meter sockets to be placed on there. We also need to be scheduling a service outage for all the duplexes along Western because a bulldozer hit one of our new transformer sites and broke the transformer pad. So that's gonna be build work to the contractors there. They're also gonna be paying for freight of that pad. Luckily there were some pads that had to order, so I ended up jumping on that order and ordering some pads that we need in the future. So we'll be scheduling that most likely next week as well. I assisted in a sewer manhole repair today with Alex and his crew. That went smooth. We'll be driving to Little Chute tomorrow to get our new bucket truck, and also taking our bucket truck there. I'm meeting Florence Utilities, and we're signing off the registration and getting payments. So if you guys remember, we approved $50,000 sale of that, which is a really good price of that bucket truck. So that'll be tomorrow. I'll be attending the Common Council meeting to give an updated price for the street lights that are going on East Oak, now that we finally got pricing for the fixtures. And Dylan Cohn, we hired Dylan Cohn as an apprentice. He lives on G, just between Lowell and Beaver Dam. His dad works for New Energies, comes from a lineman background. He graduated from the 9-month program at Marine Park. He is very knowledgeable. I tested him on the truck, asked him a lot of questions. We chuckled a little bit because I would look at Nick, our other apprentice, but did you know the answer? He said, no, he answered pretty good. So he's a smart kid, local kid. Glad to have him. And the work will begin to train him and Nick along that journey. That's all I got.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Nick?
Could be stepping in some paint here. What does your apprentice do while you're assisting them in the hall?
What do you mean?
He's on vacation.
He wasn't here this week.
He wasn't here this week.
So they need,
Then he couldn't have
They-
helped.
they need full
Otherwise he would have helped.
yeah,
You can't have someone help that's not here.
he would have been assisting if he was here, but no apprentices are allowed to do any live work or anything like that. There's a lot of work outside of just the live work that they can maintain, working, keeping busy. Nick is really good at making sure that he stays doing something, even if it's not hot or under my supervision.
What point during their apprenticeship are they allowed to work secondary?
So it's actually up to the discretion of the utility. So you can have a step one apprentice working primary energized.
Okay.
It's under your jurisdiction, it's under your mindset of how that apprentice is
So
doing. at
one
this
size
particular
doesn't
time.
fit all.
Correct. Alliant Energy has a more, they have their own program that specifies like secondary workers from step one to step two,
Right.
step three, they can do
That's
primary.
what I was looking for.
But municipalities do not have that type of structure where this is set all and all program. It's based on the knowledge and understanding of the individual themselves. So, I do majority of the primary by myself. Obviously, right now, there's instances where I'll have them in the bucket if I need two hands, obviously. But yeah, it'll be good.
Any other questions? Okay. Moving on.
So first thing I had on for points to talk about was changing the sampling schedule for the justice facility. We amended this agenda kind of while we were talking about it, and they were on a schedule to sample quarterly, and more or less they've been just kind of pushing us around and sending samples
When I
whenever
remind
they
them and
feel
then
like
they
it.
get around to it.
Yeah, and then if they get good results, there was periods where they wouldn't sample for 3 years, and then, you know, then they'd sample again, get a bad result, and then they'd sample right away to get rid of it. So initially we
Do
were.
they have their own treatment system there?
No, it's just for billing's sake. But initially, we put it on here to talk about moving them to monthly, just because, especially part of it is because the guy in charge of it's difficult to work with. And their results are all over the board. So the thought was that you sample less frequently because your numbers are consistent. Well, if your numbers are all over, why are you sampling less frequently? So, but we did find in the Code of Ordinances that it is written to be scheduled every 4 months. So I think at this point we'll just hold them to a firm due date as far as the results.
So every third of a year they're,
How long has this been going on as far as things going down? Since February,
Yeah, since I've started, they've been anywhere from 4 to 6 months, I think, maybe 8 months. Sometimes they get their tests back, but they don't report them to me till another month and a half, 2 months.
It was like 2010, and then the next sample was 2014.
But that was when Alice was here, and I don't know how
Yeah,
long she
15,
kept that up,
19.
so.
So yeah, they might not have been pushed.
Right, or they might have been reported, but she didn't put it on there, I don't know why she wouldn't put it on there, so I'm guessing that, yes, they
Right.
skipped a bunch of stuff in there.
I'd recommend talking to John Nails. He's really approachable as far as like, you guys are having issues. I don't know if you have or maybe you have.
That's, I think the person that we're having a difficulty with.
Oh, really?
Over the phone, I will say the opposite
Never had
of
an
that
issue.
statement.
So we are underbilling or overbilling them, depending.
Well, just
They're
depends
affecting
on-
physically,
It's
yeah.
probably coming out in the wash. The one on, I think it was February, prior to that, they had real high results. And they got tested in February 28th. They had test results, I didn't get them until April, so for February and March, they got billed at those high rates, where the test results that did come in that they finally gave me in April, they wouldn't have gotten any charges for those 2 months. So I think that compensates for the times where they that they're not getting charged, they test and then they have high results, but it's just sporadic and they're just getting to be a little, hard-headed about how we're getting that taken care of.
What is the sensor we use for sensing? Can we put something like that in there? I realize it's gonna be a big cost.
So we do have, it is in our budget that we can, if we get around to it, can purchase a portable sampler that we can put in the manhole and we can start sampling them ourselves. We just don't have the equipment yet right now. But it is budgeted for, so we can start
Yeah.
doing that.
But
And
they're
that's
all-
part of it too, is I think they might be, they are the ones taking their own samples, so odds are that
They're
if you
making
know
sure
you're
they have a
sampling,
good
you
day.
might not do something that day that you would a different day. So we might move to us sampling them on a strict schedule, but for the time being, I think we don't need to take action on it. We'll just start following the ordinance to the letter of the ordinance
Right.
at this point.
Okay.
We haven't been as strict as we need to be in following them.
What's their history with the samples you're taking, Alex? Is it high in phosphates or?
It kinda goes all over.
It's all over.
Yeah.
They had, the
It's usually
phosphorus is
The north building, I think, is worse, or the north, assuming their
a little
buildings,
worse, yeah.
north is worse than south.
I mean, phosphorus normally hangs around 6. They had one as high as 12, 10. So there's some days phosphorus is high. Then there's oddball days where they're DOD and solids. It usually hangs around 100, 150, and then there's some that are 700 or 500. So
Is there more than one lateral coming in our system?
yes. So that's why they do sample from 2 different places, and it does seem that what they label as their north lateral is
Oh, those
typically
are
the
fine. Okay.
worst.
Yeah.
Worst spot. So, and it's also within our ordinances that I can inspect their facility for what they're putting down the drain, so one day.
Their north lateral, that should be the court system and what have you. The south lateral must be their jail pods, isn't it?
I don't know. I haven't made that.
Just the way the
inspection
building
yet.
is constructed, that would make sense anyway, that the north part is their justice facility and offices and stuff. Kind of odd that would be the one that would be the culprit.
Ed, someday when I get time, I'll request a tour of their facilities and what they do and how they do it, so. We'll see where that goes. Next item to talk about is, something I thought just to help me out. We have to do lead and copper sampling, this fall and 6 months later, so then again in spring. I need 20 houses that are pre-approved by the DNR to sample, and it's kind of a strict regimen to do this sampling. The house, because now we're under the guise that we have no lead left, we still have to test for lead, but it's a lower criteria of house that we have to make. So I need a house built before, I believe it's 1967, single family house with no water softener and no water filter. And then they have to let the water stagnate for 6 hours before I take a sample, and it has to be first draw for the sample. So it's a little bit of a specific order to take this sample, and we've been so swamped that I'd like to maybe advertise, hey, this is our criteria, we can provide, or even if I do canvas, at least it's a little bit of an incentive to the homeowner, customer, to say, hey, I can give you, say a $25 or $50 bill credit to help us out and get this data, because we need to get this data for
You can
us.
still use my kitchen sink.
Well, I'm up to one.
Because that's not on a water, the rest of the
Yeah.
house is on a water softener, but
Yeah.
the cold water on the kitchen sink
Yeah.
is not.
Yeah, so
Or
it's,
the spigot outside is not,
yeah.
whichever you
So
prefer.
that's, I have to find 20 and like with a few spares as well, because I have to actually do the sampling twice, so. I guess what I'd like to offer and be able to advertise to the customers is, you know, would you like to save money on your water bill? Help us take samples or something of that nature, just to expedite this process, because canvassing for just the right house and then getting a customer that's easy to deal with without any incentive might be time consuming. And I don't wanna get one sample done and then they're like, no, we don't wanna do that
And
anymore.
the water's gotta lay stagnant for 6 hours.
Right, so you have to like, the homeowner has to say, go to work, and then you meet them at their house when they get home, or first thing when they get up in the
That's
morning
gonna be a
before.
tough bill.
Exactly, so it's, if they're not getting any benefit out of it, it's kind of hard to ensure reliable results.
Do you need to torch the water supply to kill bugs
No,
first?
no, it's just walk in and assuming nobody's touched any water using appliances, you walk in, turn the sink on, turn the sink off. And it's first draw, so it's, you know, first liter bottle that comes out of the sink, so. I guess what I would propose, and I'm open to any input, is $25 per sample, so there's 2 samples required, so it'd be $50 refunded at the end of the second sample per customer, and it's 20 samples total, so $1,000. I don't know where we can take that from, but.
We
it
have
might-
supplies budget, so we can
Just might make my job
watch that out.
I think it's common sense, you're gonna have to offer something in order for anybody
to
to,
deal
and
with.
they're gonna have to be like a household like Bart's, where nobody's home during the day.
Right.
I'd offer you up my place, but
Ice
my
maker
wife's on the
doesn't-
faucet all the time, so.
Well, you can come in the morning.
Well, that's the other thing.
As long as nobody's.
We put that sampling cock on at City Hall when we remodeled, is that the place you take it from?
So, the idea is that we're sampling for lead,
Yep.
so the house has to have lead solder. To be confirmed to have lead solder.
Mine's got lead solder, you know that.
Has to be
I
over
do it
the.
myself, so.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, City Hall wouldn't have it. That was 2002.
They try to go for, I think it's 1967 or somewhere thereabouts. When the lead ban became.
So much your pleasure. Seems logical, seems reasonable.
Yeah. And to advertise for it with the criteria, and we have houses that are this age,
Yeah.
It might
You know,
get you,
that-
pick up a quick 10 or something at least.
well, that way they're the people that are
Or looking
upset
to help.
about things, you can,
Yeah.
this way is the way of helping,
And put it,
to help themselves.
So this is.
put it in the bill.
You could put it on the bill and maybe on the internet as well.
Yeah, we could do it on
Put it
Facebook, we
on
thought.
Facebook, for the
Start-
website.
Yeah, we
Could
started
be
on
on the
Facebook.
chamber, what's up Juneau website too.
Right.
Well, it might be something actually that What's Up Juneau might be worthwhile. Yes.
Do they do this every now and then or what?
This is just the
Um,
close on our.
I'll make the motion to offer that $25 per people volunteer to have their sample twice
For a total of 50?
for a total of 50.
I'll second it.
You have to abstain.
What? I just tell him he doesn't have to, I'll just tell him he doesn't have to pay me, as I volunteered before they offered it. I volunteered before they offered it, so.
Is there any more discussion on that? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Okay, moving to the projects. As you're all well aware, we got some substantial rainfalls. Apparently didn't knock on the table after the last meeting, because that night we received 4 inches of rain. And meanwhile, only half of our wastewater plant is operational. rated at a capacity of 660 gallons per minute. That night, we received roughly 3,000 gallons per minute. So that caused some substantial issues. The basement where the influence screen is located had roughly 3 feet of water in it and was flooded. All 4 influent pumps were running as well as they could, and we were flooding out the grit chamber at the top of the plant. So, but then because we have it gated off up there to not send flow to one plant, there was so much water up there that it was overflowing the gates to isolate the north plant, which was offline. So they had open excavations to do work on that plant that were full of sewage. And then it backflowed through our grit classifier and sent sewage down the stairwell into the office area and flooded that as well. So yeah, it was bad. We got our diesel trash pump out, and I was just afraid at this point, let's just set it up as quickly as possible, because I was afraid we were gonna back up into town. So, we set it up and just threw it in the ditch because obviously the grit chamber was already flooded out, so where was I gonna put it? So, we pumped about 50,000 gallons of water into the ditch, just to get caught up and get the basement from not flooding anymore, which we did have to report to the DNR as a treatment plant overflow. We had to advertise that in the newspaper. I haven't received anything from the DNR as far as correspondence about it. We did send flow to our excess flow basins from roughly midnight through 9 a.m. They were, I think the total was somewhere around 500,000 gallons that we sent over there in that period of time. Then we were able to shut off and we started to catch up. So that great event was substantial. We had everyone worked overtime. Liz worked from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. cleaning up. Everyone. It was a rough night. So then the next day, well, the following day, the electricians were doing work on the blowers, and the control circuit shorted out, which caused the blower to turn off. So while the blower was off, because of such high levels of groundwater, the groundwater seeped into our failing air pipe. So then once we started the blower back up again, the air pipe failed even further. So we had air and water shooting out. If I had a way to get it on TV, I have a video of a literal geyser in our yard of air just blowing water out of the ground. So we, over the next 2 weeks, we attempted to run the wastewater plant off of that even further failed line, and we just were not maintaining the aeration levels that we needed. So I came up with a plan to actually rent pipe from Lincoln Contractor Supply, which is designed for water bypasses for pumping water, but it's a metal pipe. The struggle with it is because that air is at 200 degrees, so any plastic pipe would melt. So we use this, we had the DPW guys came out and helped us dig it in, and we bought some adapter flanges. We had to go from 14-inch down to 8, and 8 back up to 10. So we put in a temporary aeration line. Our one-time costs on that was about $1,500, and then the rent on the pipe, just to rent it, is about $3,000 a month. But it is working the way it needs to and will for the remainder of our wastewater treatment plant project until we can get the new plant up and running this fall. So hoping it's only needed for 2, maybe 3 months. But it was one of those fixes that just had to happen. At least the engineers didn't have to get involved and Staub didn't have to get involved, so we did it about as cheaply as possible.
So how does the blower, is the blower running It's gonna be running warmer now that there's more back pressure.
Right, so we went from about 7 PSI to about 8 PSI, so. The existing was a 14-inch main, and now we're running off an 8-inch main. But the fact that we're not leaking all that air, we were producing 1,500 CFM, and now the blower's running down around 900 CFM, and I actually have more air in the basin than I had before. So it was leaking better than roughly 50%. So. That was another headache. In the meanwhile, Sensient did help us by shutting off their flow for that time period while we had the high flow coming in from the rain event. But at the same time, their production staff did not do them any favors in that they dumped a batch of product on their wastewater plant at the same time. So all the while we're dealing with extra flow, no air, and then Sensient started sending us as high as 34 parts of phosphorus, which their usual is around 4. So I had really bad wastewater and a lot of it and no way to treat it. So we worked through it with Sensient, and they're getting better now. They're back to lower numbers, but it was a very rough few weeks. And on top of the fact that we were running a temporary chemical feed system, that we had a bad batch of chemical that kept bugging the chemical pumps and everything else. So it was lots of fun. With that. Separate from that, you may have noticed the southeast edges of town got their fire hydrants painted. I think they turned out pretty nicely.
I think it's about really good.
Yeah, they came and left in about 2 days, so I was pretty happy with it. We did have one more lead lateral that we found during the East Oak Street project that I meant to mention at the last meeting but forgot. The homeowner did have it replaced. I kind of pushed him a little bit quickly, but I told him you wouldn't have to pay for the sidewalk pouring if you got it done before we poured our project's sidewalk. So that helped him out a little bit on his end for pricing, but he wasn't very thrilled about having to come up with the money right away. But that's just how it works. And then on the 22nd, we had another call in for high flow where lift station number 4 alarmed at a high level. This was due to the sanitary manhole that Sunset View had placed in the bottom of their ditch going along Western. Somebody, while doing grading, must have knocked the manhole off of its setting. And during the rain event, obviously, when you're in the bottom of the ditch with an open hole, rainwater will fill that sanitary sewer very quickly. So we got all that rainwater from the rain event that day into our sanitary sewer. And we wound up having the high level with the lift station, and then an hour later we had the high level at the wastewater plant to deal with. But we made it through that, and then I did wind up forcing them to restructure the way that manhole sits, which they actually did today. Originally they had probably 18 inches of riser rings on top of the structure, and I told them you can't have that many seams in the bottom of the ditch. So they wound up pulling all the riser rings out and actually putting in a 12-inch extension on the whole manhole, just to, at least it's just going to be a casting sitting on top of a manhole now, so there's less chances for it to leak in the future. But hopefully it's better than it was.
Is there any way you can recover those costs or calculate those costs on what that?
The water, I mean, it was basically just Nicholas's wages for the call-in. And then I think we had, at the wastewater plant, we had to bypass somewhere around 60,000 gallons to the excess flow basins. That was just to the excess flow basins. But yeah, it was, the extra water they sent was somewhere around having those 100,000 gallons of water. So Beyond that, Walters Buildings came to repair the broken skylights that we had from previous month's storms. We just replaced all 6 of them because the one was rotten. They were all in the same condition, so. And then Mayville offered, in talking with Mayville in the last month, they offered to sign or put together a mutual aid agreement for the water and wastewater departments. I'm sure that's something you're a little bit more familiar with on the electric side. I don't know if that's something we want to write up and just pursue, just to have in writing to say if we need help from each other, we'll recoup your costs and we're able to work together, basically. It's just a feel-good thing, more or less. But we can pursue that in the next month and have something to sign for the next meeting. So that's a direction we want to go to work with our neighbors. And then my last point to bring up is it was brought up during our employee surveys that with the way our on-call system works, we should be paying an on-call wage for that service. And I guess I've gotten conflicting answers. I mean, I haven't seeked legal counsel in regards to it, but Pam claims in HR that we technically do not. But in what you've worked with, it sounds like maybe we do.
If you require them to have a response period, then yes. If you don't, like, are you referring to your weekend call, or what are you guys?
Well, like, because we are requiring a person to carry the on-call phone during the week and be able to respond in a reasonable time frame.
I don't know, I guess.
I guess ultimately.
Obviously, we work a little different, because I receive all the calls, and for electric, so then I don't have an hourly person on call ever. But I don't make any of my guys like sit at home.
Right.
They don't have a 30-minute response period, so we don't have to pay.
So, and part of it is, I think we need to look into our policies. So I guess where I'm going with this is I would like to call.
Yeah. We did, we talked about it at joint personnel.
I don't know if anything was.
According to Kay, we probably have to look at it from a legal point of view, is what she was getting at. I keep thinking about our city attorney isn't equipped to handle it. I don't know if Steve Zach is available anymore, if he's still in the business.
Yes.
So I would be more than happy to contact him and get his opinion and see, do we or don't we? And have him give us his opinion. He's a little more expensive but what you get is accurate information. He's not going to steer us wrong. So I was thinking that's what we have to do and get, yes, do we need it or do we not?
Does your phone system not go through the 4 people anymore?
Well, it calls the city phone first. We rotate carries.
Maybe another question you
They
want to
don't have a
ask
dialing
Zach
system
is
anymore.
if he is.
So the dialer calls the city on-call phone first, and then
And
if
then
you
call
were
it.
to miss that,
Yeah,
it would call the next.
He's the guy you want to talk, I mean,
So
I've
calling
listened,
if the first guy don't answer.
he's given me all, I mean,
But you have one person that's
Dan
supposed to
and
go
I
home.
dealt with him with the union. And,
And I need somebody that I can count on. to
Well, yeah,
actually
but
show up.
he had us going back and forth from
Well,
room to
that's-
room, and
that's
it was
if- I
interesting.
can never take vacation otherwise.
Till the,
I
I think there was some
understand it for that time,
discussion.
but-
information-wise is
I
good.
think there was some discussion about whether we could
Supervise-
actually have
Well,
a
see,
person have an on-call.
so, places that was, like, there were times where I was on call, but the supervisor always got the call. And then the supervisor called me to go do the job. And that may be what you probably should be
My only
doing.
guiding question for you is what happens when I'm in the UP and my phone doesn't work.
Well,
And that's the week.
That's the week you put it to somebody else, but.
So
While
then
you're
we
in
still
town.
would need to structure payment schedule for.
Then it might be,
hours.
then maybe he might have to have the phone.
Well, right-
I don't wanna give Nick more work, but.
What it comes down to is right now it goes to the person that has
Yeah.
it. And if
Well,
they
I
don't
guess-
answer, then somebody else.
I guess-
Then it goes down the line.
Right.
Yeah, I guess
So,
what
I
happens,
mean,
if you have the phone and you can't answer it because you're in the UP, it goes to the next person, it goes down the line until somebody takes it.
Everybody's gonna not answer the phone call and go to the next person, worry about it.
I guess I just am more comfortable having somebody designated.
You guys
Well, you
gotta
could still
figure
have
this out.
somebody designated, but you'd have the phone.
Right.
So
but
it'd be
then
another,
what's-
it would be
what's
one of
the
those things where
difference
if you didn't get the call, then this person is gonna be
If
kind
I'm
of.
still mandating somebody to be within a response time, are they still
They're still having
due
to
for
put,
that payment?
because they're still, if they've got a week at a time and they're, it's like, this week is my turn and if we get a call, whether
whoever
Alex
answers
answers
the
the phone
phone
or
isn't
they
the
answer the
problem.
phone,
Yeah.
they still have to be on call and ready to come in.
Yeah, you'd have to, then you're talking to an attorney.
It's a rotating thing, and it's kind of even Steven.
Well, I
It
can-
always hits on your week.
I would say if the person that has the phone is required to come in, then, yeah, then they'd probably be due compensation, but the way it sounds to me, if they don't answer the phone, goes to the next guy. Right now, it's not a requirement for
But
them
then what happened?
to come in.
So
I'll
this
come
is,
to the rescue.
this is also a way
Well, I'm
to
just
work,
saying,
to work
right
our
now it's
personal
not.
schedules around, because I got 3 people that are all very active
Oh, I-
at both places.
Yeah, I
So,
appreciate your problem.
I need somebody here.
I appreciate your problem, but I'm just saying the way it's structured right now, it seems to me that we aren't requiring.
Yes, we are.
Well,
I
it's-
think, because
it's
they
an
work their
expectation.
schedule
It's an
where
expectation,
Peggy's
but
got
it's-
work week one
It's not a
and,
requirement.
no.
It
It is
it is
What's
a
it, Eddie?
And it's stated in the employee handbook that they're expected to be on call. They each take a week and they rotate every third week you have on call. So, and they have the
We can
phone.
look at the employee handbook. Is
We're
there
gonna
a
look
separate
at-
employee handbook for the utility?
Yeah, I think I remember seeing that in the
There's
city employee handbook. I
There's-
think it's in, there's something in there about
Some
that.
vague
It's in it.
policies
chemicals?
that really don't.
The problem was it was pumped out of our old tank, so.
You
we had
And
to
when
get
they-
it from the old
No,
system.
it doesn't
I
say.
think
So
that-
once it's gone, you're done dealing.
I think the
I mean, this is
confusing
what
part
we
is
talked
that.
about. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, I
remember
know,
what we
it's
talked
really
about
etched in
the
stone.
first
There is
one.
something in the city, in our city
I think the
employee
confusing
handbook
part
about
is,
them being
So
on
you
call.
totally wore that pipe out. Awesome.
But it's still got to come.
Everybody's got every penny out of it.
I think that the
Every
confusing part you
city
guys
employee
aren't
is on call.
understanding, excuse me,
The thing, the confusion was between carrying the phone on
that-
the weekend into the work week. That was what the issue was.
Basically.
Well,
Public
whose
Works
weekend
is on
it
call all
was,
winter.
that you're covering the full following week.
Right.
It's been
And-
covered
Yeah.
Monday to Monday
Yeah, and that's never been the requirement.
in the past.
Public Works, oh, it's snowing. Hey, you gotta come in. Right?
Ultimately, what I can tell you guys is that in cities greater than, I get my number right here.
I know,
In cities greater than 1,500, 77 or better percentage of employers offer on-call pay. Almost everybody does this.
I know you and I discussed this, and
If you want to talk apples to apples, city to city, if we want to be competitive, this is something that everybody does. I do have a, if we want to go down this road right now, I do have competitive, what everybody else does. But I guess ultimately what I was seeking is to organize a personnel meeting for mid-month to at least discuss what we'd like to offer.
I want to talk to the attorney first and see from him what our requirement would be. Just, you know, to find out one way or another. You know, I know what, I have an idea what he'll say. Because it does do things for a lot of people in the community. Because if you offer on-call status, people that carry phones, who's all affected by by offering on-call, it doesn't just affect you or your department. It affects fire and EMS, public works, electrical. I mean, everybody's affected by it if you will start doing it. Firemen carry the thing, never have a response. EMS. When you're on call for the EMS, you're expected to answer that call when you're on.
6-minute response.
6 minutes response. Same for the fire department, right?
Yep, but we're not tied to a schedule. EMS is tied to a schedule. We're on 24/7, but if you're out of town, you're out of town.
That's to keep a full ambulance, the schedule, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, you do wind up with certain problems that are there. And everything comes with
I get it. I mean, my biggest fear is I'm not around when something happens, knock on wood, it hasn't happened.
I mean, yeah, it's all of our fears.
I'm just gonna say, I'm not gonna take on this whole city's water and wastewater responsibilities in regards to calls.
I know.
We're not going down that road. Period.
I know, it's a hard road.
I have a life too.
I know.
So I don't, as much as all three of my employees don't want to carry that every third week, I don't want to carry it every week.
I know.
It would be that much worse. I do have a life outside of this facility.
Well, say there was somebody that was receiving or carrying the phone, isn't it routine that they call somebody else in to assist?
If the problem requires such, yes.
So then the person would just be carrying the phone and getting paid for that, and then you call in somebody else for your
It's
two and a
less
half
than-
hour overtime or whatever it
Less
is.
than 50% of the time, I would say, we get assistance, and usually it's from me anyway, so it's pro bono regardless.
Yeah, if your skill set is all the same in a department where Nick doesn't have that benefit, where his skill set is limited right now until they get the credentials, but if your skill set is limited all the way across the board, I don't see any reason why that can be divvied up amongst 4 people, and that you can lead your life normally, yeah. And I don't know why that's such a imposition for anybody to understand that.
Oh,
I mean, is there discussion amongst you guys, like if I have an event and I know I'm gonna be, like I don't drink, but when I go to an event, like a wedding or something, you're gonna have some beverages, and like I have discussions like that with my staff, okay, make sure that, do you guys talk like that, or?
Well, the expectation while you're on call is that you also not drinking anything else, so, when you're not on call, obviously, you do whatever you want, when you want. But ultimately, we work around people's on-call time to work around events that you might be unable to be in response. You know, we'll trade days or weeks or however it needs to be.
So just so we understand, right now, you do pass around your phone, and a different employee takes it for a week, or whatever.
Is there
And
the
they are
weekend he's
expected
on,
to
you think
answer
that's
that
how you
phone.
work it? When you work the weekend, you're on
And
that
then you
call
work
and
you get it on Monday, you work through the weekend, and then the following Monday you get it to the next person.
the week of like following Friday off, how it ever.
For the weekends we've been working,
Yeah.
well, we've been so busy enough
Yeah.
that we've just been taking it as overtime. We haven't been taking our second Friday off.
You, probably that's what it was set up.
That's the way it is initially set up. So, and that's another thing I would like to bring up, in that if we were to call a personnel meeting, I would like to restructure the handbook around the weekend, all the payment and time off and everything is written regarding wastewater plant employees for working weekends and holidays. At least to bring it to a realistic solution. Can of worms.
we've talked about that too. So we will have a personnel meeting, just for, so we, as soon as I get some information. All right?
I'll be gone the 11th through the 15th.
That was good. Okay.
Don't pick those dates.
Okay.
So that was left, that Mac is gonna contact Steve Zach about the on-call pay.
All right, does anybody before we move on, anybody have any questions for Alex? So, as far as I have nothing more. There's another open house for people who want to go down October 19th. There's an open
If you haven't
house.
done that, I would recommend it.
It's worth it.
Yes.
You don't get to see it all in one day, to soak it all up.
No, it was a good, I mean, we were there, what, 4 hours, 4.5 hours or whatever?
12:30.
Yeah, it was, I think it was, for me, it was well spent time.
You see everything you wanted to see in that
I
time?
don't know, I mean, I don't know about what I wanted to see, I just wanted to, it was like, it was what they said it was, and for those that went to the thing at, Okachi, this was like an expanded version of that. So there's more, there was a little more in depth about what WPPI does.
So,
Yeah, Bart asked some quick questions too, and then he asked how many services that we're doing. We're doing all of them basically, and no, I think it's like echoing Bart. It's a good, 4 or 5 hours of expanding on the shared services that they provide and how the more in-depth look at keeping up with today's the new standards and regulations for
or green energy and how that affects us and how we maintain our status through WPPI and good information.
Yeah, so,
I think the thing that marvels the most is when you go in that computer lab and see the brokerage of power being purchased and sold and moved around and whatever. It just, I just can't fathom how that all works, you know. I mean, you're heavily reliant on electronics, obviously, and what have you there, but somehow they get it all done.
so, okay,
It was the 19th, you said,
October 19th. So I have nothing else, Mr. Mayor.
Just the general obligation note that we, for the capital borrowing, we got I guess, a favorable rate, 4.14. It materialized in about a $96,000 saving over the 4.5 or 4.75 that they possibly, we had a ceiling of 4.75, but he was doing all those calculations on a 4.5% interest rate. So with us securing a 4.14, which we've always been very successful with Barrett handling this for us and whatever, we got a more favorable rate, which materialized in almost $100,000 in savings and interest through the term of the note. So that's good news for the city. We can move on with the projects that we have at hand and capital purchases for the departments. So, and you will have your $500,000, your $500,000 for your projects as well. So all panned out pretty well.
All right. Moving on. Any old business? Any new business? Need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Bart, second by,
I'll speak up at once.
not everybody speak at once.
I'll second that.
Motion by, second by Dave to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion is carried, 7:32.